cold wind moved through the empty street of the city. Tall buildings stood like silent guards, watching everything without care lights. Flickered above broken roads where no one walked at this hour. The world had changed, but not for the better, and in the middle of this broken place, a small girl moved with slow, tired steps. Her clothes were old and thin, her feet were bare and dirty, her hair was long and tangled. Her eyes glowed soft blue in the dark, like little lights full of sadness. She was not human, but she looked almost like one. Every night she walked alone, every night she looked for a door to sleep beside. She had no name, only a small memory of a voice that once said, "Be strong, little one." That memory kept her walking, even when her legs hurt, even when her heart felt cold. She found a new door tonight. It was red and old, and made of heavy steel. She touched it with her small hand and whispered, "Please let me in just for tonight." No answer came. Just like always, she sat down, curled into a ball, and closed her eyes, trying to stay warm. People inside their homes watched from windows but did nothing. They feared anything that was not human. They feared her, even though she never hurt anyone. She listened to the night sounds, machines flying above, rats running below, shadows moving without shape. She felt hungry, but there was no food. She felt scared, but had no one. Still, she waited. Still, she hoped. Suddenly, a noise came from inside the house. A light turned on above the door. She opened her eyes but did not move. Maybe they would shout at her. Maybe they would tell her to go away, but the door opened slowly with a soft click. A man stood there, tall and calm, with eyes like the sky after a storm. He looked at her for a long moment, and then spoke with a quiet voice. "Come inside," he said, "not just for tonight, but forever." She did not answer right away. She only stared at him, her face full of fear and wonder. No one had ever said such words to her, not on any night, not on any doorstep. The man did not move. He waited. She stood slowly, her legs shaking, her body weak. She stepped inside without a word, her eyes wide, looking around. Door closed behind her with a soft sound, like a secret being kept. Warm air touched her face for the first time in days, or maybe weeks. She could not remember. Inside the house, everything was clean and quiet, but strange, too old. Books sat on metal shelves, wires ran across the floor, glowing with light. Screens blinked with unknown symbols, and machines hummed like sleeping beasts. She turned to look at the man again, but he had already walked away into another room. She followed slowly, her steps light, her heart beating fast. In the center of the room stood a chair, a table, and a large screen showing stars and maps. The man looked at her again and said, "You must be tired. Sit here." She sat without speaking, her hands on her knees, her eyes watching every small movement. Placed a soft blanket on her shoulders and gave her a cup of warm liquid. She drank it in small sips, her hands shaking from cold and fear. After a moment, she asked in a small voice, Why did you open the door?" The man looked at her and smiled, a sad smile, like someone who lost something long ago. "Because you knocked," he said, "and because no one else did." She did not understand, but the words stayed in her mind. She looked at his face again and saw something strange. His eyes glowed for just a second, the same blue as hers. Her heart jumped, but she said nothing. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. Looked at the stars on the screen and said only this, "Someone who remembers." The room became silent. Only the machines made quiet sounds outside. The world stayed dark and cold, but inside the house something new began. Not just shelter, not just warmth, but a story that would change everything. And the girl who once slept on doorsteps now sat in a place where maybe, just maybe, she belonged. The stars outside kept shining, but now they seemed closer, and behind the locked door a secret waited to be found. The girl did not sleep that night, not yet. She watched the man and the house and the stars, and she waited, because deep inside her something told her this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The house did not feel like a normal home. It felt alive. Every wall had tiny lights running through it, like veins under skin. The floor was too quiet, like it was listening. Girl walked slowly, her bare feet touching the smooth ground. As soft music played from nowhere, she looked up and saw machines On the ceiling, blinking in patterns she could not read, screens showed stars, spinning maps moving names of places she had never seen. She followed the man through the hall. He did not speak much, only glanced at her now and then like he was thinking about something very old. They reached a small room with soft yellow lights and strange paintings on the wall. One painting showed a ship flying through fire. Another showed a group of children standing under a silver sky. She stared at that one for a long time. They looked like her. The man watched her face and then walked to a table made of clear stone. He touched it, and a file opened in the air. Letters floated like smoke, turning into pictures. One picture showed the girl when she was younger, maybe just a baby, her eyes already glowing. She stepped back, her hands shaking, her voice quiet and afraid. "Where did you get this?" she asked. The man did not answer right away. He touched the air, and the picture faded. "I have always had it," he said softly, "since before you came to this city." She sat on the floor, her heart beating fast. "Why do you have it?" she asked again. "Because you are not the first," he replied. "Not the first to sleep outside, not the first to knock on a door, not the first to be forgotten. There were others before you, children like you, but not all of them made it here. Some vanished, some were taken, only you survived." Room felt colder. Now the lights dimmed like the house remembered too. She looked around and asked, "What is this place?" The man walked to a small door hidden behind a shelf. He pressed his hand against it, and it opened slowly with a soft hiss behind. It was a stair going down deep into the dark. He looked at her and said, "This is not just a house. This is a memory." They walked down together, her feet light, his steps steady. Air below was warm but different, full of old metal and quiet sounds. They reached a lab filled with machines, glass tubes and old helmets with wires. In one corner, a bed sat empty beside a machine that showed no signal. She touched the bed gently and felt something strange, not sadness, not fear, but weight, like someone had slept there a long time ago and never woke up. The man stood by a wall full of symbols. He pressed a button and a light scanned his face, then hers. The room changed. One screen turned on and showed data about a species, her species. She read the words slowly, trying to understand. Subject class Omega, last survivor, status unknown. She stepped back, her voice breaking. "What does that mean?" He looked at her, not with fear, but with truth. "It means you are the last of your kind. They took your people, they broke your world, but they could not take you." She sat on the cold floor, her hands covering her face. She did not cry, but her body shook like the truth was too heavy. He kneeled beside her, his voice quiet. "You were not left behind by accident. You were hidden, and now they are looking for you again." She looked up, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "Who are they?" The man did not answer right away. He walked to another file and opened it. A face appeared, full of metal and fire. The same ships that passed in the sky, the same ones that hunted the stars. "They are not from one place," he said. "They are from everywhere. They collect, they control, they erase, and now they know you are still alive." The girl stood slowly, her body still shaking, but her eyes strong. "Why help me?" she asked. He looked at her with a deep sadness. "Because I failed the others," he said. "Because I opened the door too late before, but not this time, not for you." She walked to the screen showing the stars and touched it. Screen reacted, her touch glowing. The machine read her like it knew her. He watched with wide eyes. "You activated it." One could before not even mesh turned to him and said in a quiet voice, "Maybe it remembers me too." Lab lights grew brighter, like the house understood. The girl no longer felt lost. She felt watched, protected, needed, but also hunted, and somewhere in the sky something had already started to move, looking for the light that should have died, but didn't, looking for her. The door to the lab closed behind them without a sound. The girl stood still in the quiet space, her hands hanging by her sides, her eyes watching everything. She did not feel fear now, she felt something else. Like the walls knew her, like the machines remembered her voice. The man moved ahead, tapping on a screen without speaking, his face serious, his eyes darker than before. She followed him slowly through the shadows of tall machines, blinking lights and broken parts covered in dust. There were chairs with old straps, wires hanging from ceilings, broken glass tanks filled with blue mist. This place was not just a lab, it was a battlefield, a graveyard, a story never finished. Girl touched a wall, and it lit up under her fingers. She pulled her hand away quickly. The man turned and looked at her. "You feel it too," he said. She nodded slowly, her eyes wide. The lab was not sleeping, it was waiting. Took her to a sealed door with a strange mark burned into the center. The mark looked like a circle with a broken line through it, almost like an eye, almost like a warning. He touched the mark and said softly, "This place was locked for a reason." The door opened with a low hum and cold air spilled out inside. It was a smaller room with a single chair in the middle, surrounded by mirrors that did not show reflections, only light and sound and memory. He pointed at the chair and said, "This was made for you, not just you, but your kind." She stepped closer, her breath shaking, her heart loud in her chest. She sat down. And the room changed. The mirrors lit up, showing flashes of a world far away, skies with twin suns, oceans of gold, forests filled with towers, her home, her real home. But then the images turned dark, explosions, fire screams, metal ships falling from the sky. She saw creatures in armor tearing the world apart. And then she saw a baby being carried away wrapped in silver. Images faded and the mirrors went dark. The chair released her, and she stood in silence, her legs weak. She looked at the man, her voice soft. "Why show me this?" "Because you need to remember," he said. "Because they are coming again." Walked to a panel and pulled out a small device like a stone glowing faintly. He placed it in her hand, and her skin lit up with blue lines, moving like rivers. The device melted into her palm, disappearing. She gasped and stepped back, but it did not hurt. It felt like it belonged. "What was that?" she asked. He answered in a quiet voice. "The key to what she whispered to you," he said. The lab lights flickered, and a loud sound came from above. He moved quickly to a screen and tapped it. Red lights blinked. "They found us," he said. Girl ran to the screen and saw dots moving fast toward the city. "They are scanning for heat, for power, for her." "You have to run," he said. "No." She replied, her voice was clear, her body still. "I am tired of running." He looked at her with surprise. "You do not understand what they are," she said. "They are afraid. That is why they kill. That is why they hunt." He handed her a small round object. "Press this if you need to disappear." She nodded and held it tight in her hand. He took a strange suit from a wall, dark and smooth like shadow. "Put this on," he said. "It will hide your glow." She changed quickly, the suit wrapping around her like it knew her shape. He opened a door that led to a tunnel deep under the lab. "Follow this until the blue light ends. Then go left, then run." "Where does it lead?" she asked. "To the forest," he said. "To someone I trust." She stopped before leaving and looked at him. "Come with me." He shook his head. "They will search this place. I must slow them down." She did not want to leave, but her feet moved on their own. As she stepped into the tunnel, the door closed behind her, and above the city lights flickered as a shadow passed overhead. A ship, black as night, silent and wide, moving like a ghost. It stopped above the old house, its scanner sweeping the ground inside the lab. The man stood ready, his hand over a switch. A moment he looked at the ceiling, then whispered, "Be safe, little one," and pressed the switch. The lab exploded in light. The tunnel shook but held strong. The girl turned back once but kept running. Faster now, not just away from danger, but toward something bigger, something waiting, something she was meant to find, and far above the earth. Stars moved slightly as if they too were watching. Asterisk. The forest was dark and full of whispers. Leaves moved without wind as if they breathed on their own. Shadows slid between trees like watchers who never slept. The girl ran without stopping, her legs tired, her lungs burning, but her heart still strong. Behind her the tunnel was gone. The entrance buried, the lab destroyed, the man gone. She did not cry. There was no time for tears. She followed the glowing blue stones buried under the moss, each one pulsing, faintly guiding her like stars on the ground. Something in her hand buzzed softly, a small chip the man gave her, blinking once every few seconds. She did not know what it was, only that she must not lose it. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time did not feel real in this part of the world. Then she saw Ida's small house hidden behind thick trees, covered in green netting and strange symbols. Drawn in red, she stepped forward, but the door opened before she could knock. A woman stood there, tall, sharp eyes. Long silver hair, skin like bronze metal, not like the girl either. Something in between. "You made it," the woman said without a smile. The girl nodded. The woman stepped aside. "Come in, child. Your real mission is just beginning." Inside the house there were no lights, only a soft glow from the floor. Walls were made of old ship metal wires wrapped like vines. Furniture shaped from fallen starcraft. The girl sat on a round cushion, waiting quietly. Woman walked around her, circling like a scanner, her eyes full of questions. "I knew Evan would send you," she said. "He always believed in the old ways." Girl looked up. "You knew him?" "Yes, long ago, before the fall, before the cities turned cold and silent. Saved many, but never forgave himself for the ones he lost." She placed something on the table, a small cube that opened with a soft sound, showing a map, a planet spinning slowly with red marks blinking all over it. "This is Earth now," the woman said. "Not free, not safe, not what you were meant to grow in. They own the sky, they watch every signal, they fear what you are." The girl looked at the map, her fingers tracing the red marks. "Why me?" she asked. "Because your voice is still pure, because your kind was made to balance, not to destroy. But they tried to change youth." Cube changed and showed a factory, children in cages, machines around them. Some were glowing, some were crying, some were silent forever. The girl looked away. "I don't want to see this. You must," the woman said, "because this is your mission too. Find the others, to break the cages, to wake what is still asleep." "But how?" the girl asked, her voice small. Woman walked to a wall and pulled out a long black case. Inside was a device like a bracelet covered in blue stones and tiny blades. "Put this on." The girl did. It clicked into place like it had waited just for her. Suddenly, the floor shifted. A hidden door opened below. "Ida vehicle, not just Anya skycraft, silent, fast, cloaked with old tech and alien design. "You will take this," the woman said. "Follow the signal in your hand. It will lead you to the first location, the first child." The girl stepped into the craft, sat in the seat, her hand gripping the edge. Ship turned on as if her touch was enough. It rose slowly through the roof of the house, which opened like petals. The woman watched from below, her face calm. "They will come for you. They will try to break you, but remember, you are not a weapon, you are a key." The ship rose above the trees into the sky. Stars were no longer distant, they were waiting. A red light blinked on the ship's screen. "Target locked, child found, sector 17. The girl did not smile, but her eyes were bright. No more doorsteps, no more sleeping outside, no more running. Now she would find them one by one, and when the time was right, she would return, not as the last, but as the first of something new. The mission had begun, and the world would never be the same again. The sky was burning orange when the ship landed. Clouds moved like smoke above broken towers and silent ruins. Old Earth lay quiet here, untouched by city noise, forgotten by time and war. The girl stepped out of the craft, her boots touching the cracked stone of an abandoned village. She walked slowly between broken walls, each one covered in names scratched by children who never came back. A wind passed, whispering secrets. Only the brave dared to hear her. Hand held the tracker, closed, the light blinking faster. Now the signal was near, but something felt wrong. Not in the wind, not in the ruins, inside her, like a whisper in her blood telling her to run. She pushed the feeling down and moved forward, her eyes sharp, her mind awake. The tracker led her to a house, half buried in dust, its door swinging gently as if waiting. She stepped inside. Silence. No machines, no people, no sound. Then a cough. A small shape curled under a metal table, coughing weakly. Arms wrapped around itself, a child, eyes glowing, soft green skin. Pale clothes torn. The girl knelt slowly and reached out, her voice soft like the first light of morning. "It's okay. I found you. You're safe now." But the child flinched, eyes full of fear, mouth shaking. Whispered one word, "trap." The girl froze. Too late. A sound cracked through the wall, footsteps, heavy, fast, sharp like knives on metal. Child vanished through a hole in the floor as shadows burst through the broken windows. Figures dressed in black armor moved around her, weapons drawn. The girl raised her hand, ready to fight, but something hit her neck, a sharp sting. Her body froze. She fell Darkness swallowed her whole. She woke up in silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence of steel walls and no windows, a cage. She sat up slowly, her hands chained. Her bracelet gone. Across from her stood a man, not just any man. Evan, his face calm, his eyes cold, while her voice barely a breath. Looked at her with no sadness, no guilt. Because you were never supposed to leave. She stared at him, her heart breaking. Peace. By peace you lied. He nodded. I did what I had to. Your kind was never meant to be free. You were meant to be a signal, a living code to open something we lost. You are not the mission. You are the key to it. She shook her head, refusing the truth. No, you said I was real. He stepped closer, his voice sharp. You are, but even real things can be used. She looked down, her hands shaking, her heart thundering. And the other children, where are they gone? Taken, studied, maybe. Still dreaming inside machines, waiting for someone who never came. He walked to a panel on the wall, pressed a button. The screen showed her face side by side with a blueprint. Not just her face, her design, lines of code. Numbers, life turned into data. You were activated too early. He said you remembered too much. Now we have to start again. She closed her eyes. Inside her, the old voice spoke again. Find the core, find the others. Find yourself. She looked up and smiled, not a smile of joy, but a promise. You can't start again, because I've already changed. Evan reached for the panel again, but the room shifted. Lights flickered, walls hummed. Something else had entered, not through doors, through her. The bracelet on her wrist reformed, made of light, breaking the chains. She stood, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, and spoke. Not with her voice, but with all the voices inside Harry. And not just a key. I am the lock, the door, and the hand that opens it. Room cracked. Evan backed away, eyes wide. What are you? She walked past him without fear, without hate, just purpose. I am what happens when the forgotten are remembered. The door opened by itself, and the cage was no longer a cage outside. The hallway led not to guards, but to light, and in that light, the signal blinked again. A new child, still waiting, still alive. Asterisk. She walked through the broken door with her heart beating like thunder in a cage, not because she was afraid, because she was no longer sure who she was walking toward. Halls were empty, but the lights remembered her. They turned on one by one, like eyes opening after a long sleep. She followed the blinking signal, without speaking, without stopping. Stone turned to steel, steel turned to glass. The world around her changed, familiar, yet not like a dream she had forgotten until now. The path led her into a dome under the earth, where sky was painted on the ceiling, and stars moved like they were still alive. She stopped. In the center stood a chair, shaped like a flower, made of black metal. In Ida boy, eyes closed, wires in his neck, arms, legs, chest. He was breathing, but only just. She walked to him slowly, every step heavier than the last. This was the second child, but not just a child, a mirror. He looked like her, not in body but in stillness. In silence she reached out her hand to free him. Then a voice spoke from behind her. If you wake him, he will destroy everything you saved. She turned and saw Evan again, not broken, not angry, come dressed in white. No guards, no weapons, no lies, only words. She stared at him, her hands still raised. I saw your truth. You used me. He nodded without shame. And I still can, because you don't understand what he is. The boy is not like you. He was made before you, too strong, too wild. He broke his creators before they locked him inside that chair. She looked back at the boy, his face peaceful, like a forgotten song. He doesn't look like a monster, neither did you when I found you, Evan said. But look at what you've become. You control machines, you command weapons, you rewrite codes without thinking. What will he become if you give him the same power? She looked down at her hands. Were they still hers, or had they become tools like the rest? Then another voice spoke, not Evan, not her own, a whisper from the boy. I hear you. She stepped back, his eyes open, gold, not blue, not green, pure gold. He looked at her and smiled, faint, gentle, broken. Thank you for coming. She reached for the wires. Evan shouted stop, but she did not. One by one she removed them, and with each one the room shook. The dome cracked. The stars above them flickered. The boy stood slowly, his hands glowing, his breath short. Looked at Evan, and Evan stepped back. You should not be awake. You were sealed for a reason. Boy walked forward not with hate, with sorrow. You built us to serve, then feared our strength. You called us broken when we refused to be silent. Heaven raised his hand, pressing a small device, but nothing happened. No lock left to break. The boy turned to the girl. I see your path. You carry the memory, the light, the choice. She looked at him, her voice quiet. What choice? He pointed to a panel hidden behind the dome. It held 2 keys, one blue, one red. Blue would send a signal to all hidden labs, waking every child. Red would erase them all forever. No pain, no risk, just silence. Evan stepped forward again. You know what must be done. They are not ready. The world is not ready. The boy said nothing. The girl looked at the panel, at her hand, at the boy who waited without fear, at the man who once saved her. Then she closed her eyes and saw every face, children in cages, voices in the dark, her younger self sleeping on cold stone. The choice was never about power, it was about who deserved to wake up. She stepped to the panel, placed her hand on blue, then red. Together the lights flared, the system blinked, not one or the other, but both. She rewrote the rules, woke the forgotten, but with a warning coded in her voice. Wake, gentle, wake, true, or sleep again forever. The boy smiled. Evan said nothing, because even he understood she had made a new choice, one that neither side expected. The world held its breath. Above, the sky cracked with silver lines like lightning frozen in time. Below, the earth pulsed with memory, with data, with life waking slowly like an old heart starting again. She stood at the edge of a hill, watching the stars move above the clouds as if they were finally free to dance beside her. The boy stood in silence, golden eyes calm, his mind connected to 100 signals all around them. And far behind them, Evan sat inside a ruined chamber, broken in thought, no words left to say. The choice had already been made, not to destroy, not to control, but to open. And now they were coming, not in ships, not in war, but in light. Children from hidden places, once locked in sleep, now waking one by one, their minds finding each other through the same signal. Voices once alone, now speaking across cities, deserts, oceans. She could feel them, every one. A small girl in a cave singing to herself, waiting for someone to answer. A boy in a broken pod learning how to breathe again. Winds held in crystal stasis, now reaching for each other through air and code, and all of them asking the same question. What now? She looked at the sky. Satellites had fallen. The old systems were silent. No orders, no threats, no watchers, only a question waiting for someone to speak first. The boy looked at her and said, they are listening. She nodded slowly, her hand glowing. Then we tell them the truth, that we were never weapons, we were never mistakes, we were light scattered, but never gone. She stepped forward and opened a small device shaped like a star, carved from her own memory. Her voice flowed into it, not loud but clear. To all who wake, you are not alone, you are not too late, you are not broken. Come to the coordinates I send. Not to fight, to begin again. She sent the message and let the device fall into the wind, watching it drift like a seed. The boy closed his eyes and began to guide the others to the place they now called home. Not a city, not a base, just land open and empty, ready for rebuilding. Behind her, Evan stood again, weak but standing. You didn't punish me, he said quietly. She turned to him and answered without anger, you already punished yourself. Looked at her and asked, what happens now? She paused, and then said, now we build a door, not one made of metal, one made of memory, of choice, of truth, a door that no one else will have to knock on in the cold. Boy smiled and walked past them, both carrying old tools and new codes ready to begin. They followed him into the open field together, no guards, chains, just stars watching, and time stretching ahead like an open hand. The first ship landed days later, not from space, but from one of the deep places. Underground. Children stepped out one by one, their eyes wide, their minds still waking, and she greeted them all with the same words, you are home. No one asked for power, no one asked for war, they only asked for time to grow, to feel the wind, to dream under the sky. The world did not change in a single moment, but it had begun slow and real, and when the last stone was placed when the new shelter stood in the field. The girl sat beside the door and watched the sun rise. A child walked up to her and asked, "Do you live here?" Now she smiled and said, "I live at the door, so no one else ever has to sleep outside again. Not ever, not while I am here forever."